All right, welcome back to Little Jim Big Heart, my interview series where I interview the smartest group of my friends in the fitness industry. I'm very excited to bring on one of the first team members, the first team member that I brought on, Krysten Rimmer. So she's been here, man, how long have you been here?
Here.
A year. So Kristen has been here. She came on as a coach, but also as our client success manager. And it's a role that not a lot of gyms have. And a lot of gyms don't think about this role until way after they probably should have. So, my intention today is to talk about what she does in this role and how anybody could apply even like a fraction of what she does because she does an incredible job. I'll let we can talk about the numbers, but Kristen, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for
Yeah.
inviting me.
So give me, I don't want to spend too much time on backgrounds. I like to keep these very kind of straight to the point and tactical, but give us like the grand overview of your background and how you found us.
Grand overview. So I went to Westchester University for kinesiology. I've always been really big into the whole mind body experience. I think that they're all interconnected. I worked for a different training facility that just wasn't my happy place and was on a nice big scavenger hunt of where I could call home, and I knew it needed to be a gym setting, and was put in contact with another one of your staff members, which led me down the rabbit hole to talking to you. And then before I knew it, I was hired at Gage.
Yeah. And that's, a testament to uh, referrals and word of mouth. We've gotten some of our absolute best employees over the years, Kristen being one of them, from referrals from either staff members or members. We've had really good referrals from clients as well. Because the truth is, all clients have had trainers or know people that are interested in fitness. So it's a really good resource to tap. So you are the client success manager for Gage Strength Training. So Gage has today about 430 or so clients.
Mm-hmm.
Does averages around $100,000 a month. Uh, Tell us about that job because your job, the numbers that you own, is basically all the retention and membership utilization. So tell us about your role.
So my role here at GST as client success manager is to onboard every new member into our gym. And what that process really is breaking down any potential barriers for what would make them unhappy in the foreseeable future, whether it's injuries, schedule changes, busy life, busy job, kids, traveling, things like that, finances, really just finding anything that could make them unhappy and breaking down those walls to show them that we are a forever home for them. This really takes place over the first truly 3 months that they are new members at Gage. For anyone past that first 3 months onboarding, it is continuous follow ups based off of client success meetings, focusing on goals that they are important, goals that are important to them, and then just making sure that they're being challenged and pushed according to their I'd say entry level. So if they're first starting into their fitness journey, gentle nudges, or if they need something a little more fierce and spicy, really spicing up their workouts and pushing them to their own personal limits. So that's a lot of what I do here. Is a lot of check-ins, a lot of reach outs, making sure that all of our members here are happy, whether they're athletes or adults.
So let's start at the top. So new client joins. So for
Right.
us, just a little more background into the organizational chart. We have a separate sales person. So, client reaches out from our marketing efforts, they're brought through our pipeline. If they commit to some sort of like trial or ongoing experience with us, because we'll do like free week or short-term trials, a lot of times just come in for a session, sign up. Where do you like what's the communication and where exactly do you pick up from sales to here? How do you make sure that transition goes incredibly smooth?
Yeah, absolutely. So someone comes in, they have their trial session, it goes spectacular, they sign up day of. From that point that they sign up, we have an automation system that generates daily for people who have signed up in our revenue. I see the names who have signed up, and then from that point on, so let's say they sign up on a Monday, Tuesday morning, they're getting a message from me, whether it's a personal or automation. We do both just to make sure that they're getting all of the information possible and as many touch points right off the bat as possible. So, automation wise, they get any app instructions to book their classes, they get a link to schedule a client success meeting, and an invitation to our Facebook page. All of that is just seamless and runs without any effort. Me personally, I reach out to every new client, inviting them to the gym, and then I am so excited, along with my team members of our community team, to really sit down and deep dive into what their why is and why they are now members of our gym.
So if a gym was starting this out, or let's say, you had to start from scratch, or you were
Yeah,
consulting somebody on this, what,
right.
like that onboarding messaging, right? Member joins, what are you needing to include in that onboarding messaging? How would you, because it's going to be different for everybody, but is there like a basic enough framework that you could provide?
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say starting from scratch, someone joins, it's a nice welcome message explaining who you are and your role in the company. Very brief and to the point. They don't need to be overloaded with your position in the company. And then the most important information that they're going to need to stay coming in your gym, which would be scheduling. I'd say that's probably the first and foremost, most important message that
Yeah.
they can get right off the bat. From there, it's any additional perks and benefits that they get from their membership, whether it's you have business to business with other companies and they get all of these perks, or if you hold client success meetings, something that adds more value to their membership would streamline after that main source of information, which would be booking their classes to continue to come to your facility.
Yeah. And I think, the most, what I'm hearing is like, think of all the areas that aren't obvious or could lead to like friction points, and like
Yeah.
build that. Like if somebody might be confused how to schedule, like we use MindBody. If you're listening to this, there's everybody hates MindBody. There's nobody that is like, this is, I love it. It's great. It's easy to use.
The
But it's the same
headache.
thing with all of the systems, like Zen Planner, Healthy Live, like they all have the same feedback. So knowing that, like that's where you want to start, is like, hey, this is how you do it. Make it as detailed and meet them where they're at as possible.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. So we do client success meetings. Um, let's talk about the onboarding meeting, and then we can talk about, maybe the differences or the cadence in which we like try to get people scheduled. So somebody joins, uh, they're starting to work out, and we also make them come in and sit in a room with you. Why?
Why? I think it's a second step leading off of the sales. What's the word I'm looking for? Making sure that I guess they're the best fit for you and you're the best fit for them. So, going through all of those reasons as to why they would cancel or leave your gym and calling it like it is. What is going to be your main reason to leave? What do we have to do to keep you here for the foreseeable future is a huge part of their onboarding initial client success meeting. Once we kind of run through all of the friction points or roadblocks, as I like to call them, with our new members, we get into why they showed up and why they are here and wanting to be a part of our community. Figuring out their why on that initial meeting, I think, is a huge, huge benefit to you, the meeting holder, and is a really great returning point to refocus that client onto why they should still keep coming and focus the progress isn't going to be in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be over the next couple of months, even years, until they really hit that happy point of, yes, this is why I started this journey again. So friction points and figuring out their why are the main points of that onboarding meeting.
Well, and I think I want to touch on this because the mistake that a lot of people make. So this is essentially, it's an extension of the sales process. Like, yes, these people have already bought or committed to some sort of trial experience, but
Right.
every day you have to resell them. And the mistake most people make in the sales process and with this is lying to clients or misleading them about how easy it's going to be. Like, too many people will sit down in these meetings and just be like, "Oh my God, yeah, we do this all the time. We can definitely help you lose the weight."
Yeah,
That's not true. I mean, the statistics will show how high the failure rate is with weight loss, which is most people want to lose some sort of fat.
correct.
And it's not helpful, right? Because if
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
leave and they're like, oh, I'm paying 350 a month, they just said it's really easy. Why am I like you're going to associate ease with low value. So that
Hmm.
I want to make sure I touch on that because the importance is like you hammer those friction points. And I think the
Yep.
better people can get at that, where they're like, hey, awesome, you're here. Let's high five. You took the first step. You will not be here forever. The truth is, you will lose
Yep.
motivation. I want to make sure we talk about that now so that when it does happen, because it will happen, we know the best way to approach it, the best, way that we can reach out and what time of year we can get in touch with you. Like if your kid plays soccer and it's crazy, then like what's the thing coming up that is going to throw you off track? And let's solve that problem now.
Yeah, exactly. And much like you said, it's going to happen. Everyone is going to have something that is going to get in their way and derail them from their progress, their motivation, their determination. And then finding that why is going to be where they place the value in whatever they're paying. So if it's $300 a month and their why is tied to that high value, you remind them of their why, and then that 9 times out of 10 really regenerates that motivation, determination, and puts them back on track to continue to show up and be a member and a part of your community.
Yeah, and I know we've had staffing changes and we're constantly evolving our systems, but all that why stuff and goal stuff really starts in some of those initial messages and the communication from sales to the coaches. Talk about how you bridge the gap or how you make sure all the messaging is shared across. And like when you sit down in that meeting, what details you know already and how you got it.
Yeah, right. So we use a platform called Slack. I think it's one of the best communication forums a team could use, especially in my experience as a gym setting. From our sales to community team to our coaches and then overall staff, I make sure as part of my daily due diligence is to check sales reports and making sure that any important and pertinent information about anyone who comes in is relayed to my community team first and foremost, because those are the ones having those meetings, and then is streamlined to our staff as a whole, because no one member is going to stick solely with a coach. We're going to bounce around. So it's really important for all of our staff, along with our community team, to have important information on whoever it is that comes in.
All right. And this is a leadership position. And because I think we have, I don't know, 7 trainers or something at Gage.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of members, there's a lot of moving parts.
Right.
So I know the answer. I just I want to reiterate this point. Um, one of the things that I hear or I say a lot is your understanding is my responsibility. So, is it enough to just be like posting something in Slack and hoping that everybody understands it? Or how do you, from a leadership position, like make sure that these messages are being read, being taken seriously, and like the coaches are truly absorbing this information and putting it to use?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. A system that we've put in a decent amount of time ago is any leadership message that is then passed down to our staffing team. So we have 8 coaches, including myself, 7 without me. Any message that is sent about any member in the gym, any athlete, any adult, is then followed up with a once you read, you gotta give me an emoji or some sort of notification, whether it's done, read, understood, a thumbs up, any type of um, action towards that message to let me know or any other leadership team member know that that message has been read, it is understood, there's no questions. And if something were to come up, it's, well, did you read this? Yes, I saw it. And then that way there's no miscommunication later on.
Yeah, and listen, not for nothing. What she just outlined works on so many levels. And I wanted to reiterate that point because a lot of people don't take full responsibility or ownership over their community, their side of the communication. And they're like, well, I shared it. I can't control what anybody else does. But that's not real leadership. So I want to reiterate that point. And it also it really puts the onus on them because if they check that box and they didn't actually read it, like they faked it, and something
Right.
occurs that they should have that information should have armed them against. Like if they,
Mm-hmm.
we had a client that had a knee injury, it's in X person's session, and we're like, hey, this person's coming in, check this box when you've read this so I know you've received it. If they didn't really read it and they checked it, they start having that guy do squats or, whatever else, and the guy blows his knee out, and there's nothing they can say other than I didn't read the message and I lied about
Right.
this. So it really like it's just a really easy way to get people to double down on like accountability. So I think that's important because this is a leadership position, whether it's above anybody else, like it's a
Mm-hmm.
leadership position to own the reception of the information.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think without communication, there is chaos, and that's not a great thing that you want to have amongst a team. Everything wants to be nice and serene in terms of communication.
Yeah. So, all right. So that is the onboarding. Okay.
Hmm.
Now we built kind of a conceptualized what the perfect, like, how do we make sure that first 3 weeks, like, what are you doing? How are you watching the behaviors of the members to know that, like, they're getting everything, they're doing what they need to do? If you see a member, what do you like? What boxes are you like? All right, they did this, they did this. I know that they are like locked in, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, great question. So over those first few weeks, heavily, the first week is a personal message from me, whether it be via text message or a phone call, if they prefer phone calls, which is also totally cool. Going over that initial, hey, we're going to schedule a client success meeting. What's a great time for you? We have that meeting during week one. They continue on through week two, and that is more of a behind the scenes check in to make sure that they're in our Facebook group. They've done an in body scan, which takes place during that initial client success meeting, and that they are using their membership. So if they signed up for 2, 3, 4, whatever membership they signed up for, they're utilizing that to the fullest extent. During week three, it
And
is then again.
so let's touch on that. So we run reports, right?
Mhm.
So how do you know that they're utilizing their membership? And what happens if they're not? Like you run that report and you're like, this person's supposed to be coming 3 days a week. They only came once last week. Like what's the, what can somebody do to make sure that they have a system for this?
Yeah, so if someone's not utilizing that membership, the best tactic that I've found is a personal reach out again to that member, asking them any friction points. What's life been like? How's stress? Why haven't you been coming in? I know that you just signed up. Do we need to have another sit down meeting and kind of game plan, pre-schedule those classes for you? So it's going to them first and foremost right off the bat as soon as you see that they're not utilizing that membership, and beating down any roadblocks that may have come up over the first couple of weeks.
Cool. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that kind of puts the nail in onboarding, right? So if
Yeah.
somebody signs up, they do a
Mhm.
client success meeting, you're seeing that they're coming in for 3 weeks. They kind of like that 3 week period is kind of we've just deemed that like this is the high accountability. We want to watch you every single day, make sure you're showing up, utilizing in body, doing all these things. So
Yeah.
before we move on too far from this, what is because a lot of people ask, how long do the client success meetings take? And what is the like exact agenda? And how do you know? So yeah, go through the agenda and then I'll talk about because there's a difference between a good client success meeting and a bad one. And there
Yeah.
are ways to like create some personal metrics and measurables around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, client success meetings in a whole take 30 minutes. They should not take more than that. Any information that you're hoping to draw out from them should be able to be accomplished within that 30 minutes. I think the best way to ensure that that happens is a message sent out to them prior to their meeting so they know you're going to do an in body scan and to come with what they want to work on, if
Perfect.
it's anything. Um,
So that message would be like email, text message that's like, hey, leading up to the meeting, this is the goal. Come in thinking about questions that you have,
mhm.
like that.
Yeah, exactly. Once they show up, I have a form that I have created in Convert Club, which is Go High Level. It's the same form that the entire community team uses once they hold these client success meetings. Their verbiage in which they present these questions is up to them. We're all different people, we're not robots. And building that personalized connection using your energy is how you really perform a good to great client success meeting, and not just reading off of a sheet of paper the entire time.
Yeah. So,
Um,
one thing I want to touch on this before we move on too much. So, what's very, very important and a friction point for a lot of people delegating these meetings is a lot of times the owners like they can't do it as good as me, or like they don't know what I know. Like, listen, I'm certified in hypnotherapy, NLP, like I've done everything regarding like communication and goal setting and all that stuff. There's never going to be a time that I can just implant what I
yeah.
know or how I can communicate, which, I'm not saying is like the best, but it's never going to be the exact same. So you need to create a process that doesn't require any special skills. Like I
Mm-hmm.
really struggled with this in the beginning where I'm like, when you hear them say this, you need to like pick up on that because that's an NLP like thing. And it's
Right.
I'm like losing my train of thought, but there can be zero special skills required. So you make a process that is purposely vague enough that
Mm-hmm.
anybody can do, and it's
Correct.
also measurable. So we have like 5 things that we go through. It's like we go the in body, we do this, we do this, we do this. Basically, you make this measurable by like make the process and then make like the checkpoints for each part of the process and then measure them against that. So they're going to do it, like you said, like they're going to do it the specific nuanced way that they're going to do it. But as
Correct.
long as they check the big boxes, they're following the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And much like you said, if you follow the process and you check the boxes, it leads to a good to great outcome of a client success meeting, and not walking away from a 30-minute session with a member, walking away being like, what the heck did we just talk about? I
Yeah.
know that wasn't my session. I know they got nothing out of it. So that's what you want to completely avoid.
Yeah. Um, and going into it, I always love this question. Like people always ask, like, how do you make sure they leave having a great meeting? Like I would a lot of times just start the meeting with like, what exactly do you need to leave from this meeting to know that to feel really thrilled about it? And a lot of times I just be like, just tell me what to eat. Or I don't know, I just want to like help get a good goal or like know what I should be doing. And then I'll circle at the end, I'll just be like, hey, you said you wanted to be told exactly what to eat. We talked about macros, we talked about calorie intake. I'm going to send you some resources. Do you feel good
Mm-hmm.
about that? Right. So as long as you like get them to admit what they need and you circle back to like get clarity at the end, you're pretty much golden.
Correct. It's like you've done one of these
Yeah.
before. Yeah. As long as,
So
I mean,
what is the agenda? So it takes 30 minutes.
mm-hmm.
Tell me the typical, everyone's going to be different based on if they're a current member or if they're a brand new person. Give me the run of the mill structure.
Yeah, absolutely. So they show up, we go back, we do an in body. As they're getting prepared for their in body, that's when we propose, me and the rest of the community team, what do you need out of these 30 minutes to walk away feeling like you have the tools for success until we meet again? They normally relay that or that statement to you. Hey, I need XYZ, whatever that may be that gets plugged into your form. They run through the in body. We then go through the in body and explain what all of the numbers, what trends we want to see, what we want to increase, what we want to decrease, what's something that's really good about their in body, what's something that we need to work on.